World Environment Day, the huge plastic pollution problem in Metro Manila and other megacities in Asia was brought back on the global agenda. Plastic facts are staggering. By 2025, the world's ocean will contain nearly 250 million metric tons of plastic, according to the 2015 study of the Ocean Conservancy. Roughly 8 million metric tons of plastic leaks out of the global economy and into the ocean each year. China, Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam contribute more than half of the ocean's plastic. These countries have long been struggling with population growth, unmanageable plastics consumption, and waste management. The Philippines is among the countries with the most number of plastic wastes being dumped into the seas, despite the enactment of Republic Act No. 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act since 2001. The country generates about 2.7 million metric tons of plastic waste and 500,000 metric tons of plastic waste leakage each year. Data from the Ocean Conservancy stated. In Metro Manila, which is home to more than 12 million people, about 8,600 tons of waste per day are generated. Finding solutions for the world's plastic problem is an uphill battle. Worry no more, cause urban container gardening is the new normal. A response to food crisis, a hunger solution. Urban container gardening or container gardening is when plants are grown in containers such as pots rather than into the ground. It is the practice of growing plants, including edible plants, exclusively in containers instead of planting them in the ground. Container gardening is useful for urban areas where having an actual garden is not possible. It is space efficient and mobile, so it can be arranged to fit wherever you choose to set up your garden. The beauty of container gardening is that you can use all containers around your home for your garden, so it's budget and environmentally friendly. One of the examples of urban container gardening is the self-watering planter using plastic bottles or PET bottles. So first, what is a self-watering planter? One of the most common mistakes gardeners make, even highly experienced gardeners, is to overwater plants. The best solution for this problem is a self-watering container or self-watering planter. Contrary to what the name implies, a self-watering planter doesn't actually water itself. It does provide a consistent source of moisture to the plants growing in it and allows you to water less frequently. So how this self-watering planter work? Self-watering containers work on a reservoir system. There is a water storage tank, usually at the bottom of the container, which you fill. So as you can see, the bottom part of the bottle has a reservoir system. The reservoir system makes self-watering containers very water efficient. Water is stored out of the sun and wind. It evaporates slowly and with less water loss than if you sprayed water on your plants. How are these self-watering planters helpful? 1. More efficient use of water. In the era of global warming, we all need to contribute cautiously towards saving the elixir of life, which is water. These containers are a blessing in disguise as they minimize water wastage that happens due to seepage or evaporation. Because water is in an enclosed reservoir, it doesn't evaporate directly into the air. Instead, it goes directly to the plant's roots. So it helps in the conservation of water. Second is, they provide consistent moisture for your plants without having to constantly water by hand. The consistency is especially helpful for plants that don't react well to inconsistent watering, such as tomatoes. You'll probably find that you have a better yield if you use self-watering planters for your vegetables. Take note that some plants such as cactus and succulents do not grow well in constantly moist conditions. Don't plant them in a self-watering container. So bear in mind that plants are like people. They're unique and they need different things to grow. What works for one plant might not work for another. So, before planting, do your research. Number 3. Self-watering planters offers flexible growing space. As more and more population today lives in apartments, gardening is limited to containers, terrace, patios, and windows. Self-watering containers are perfect for container gardens as they can be placed anywhere, irrespective of the size and shape of the garden. Number 4. It prevents plant diseases. There is a less chance of fungus and disease because you keep water of your plants' leaves by feeding them directly through their roots. Some plants, like tomatoes, are prone to fungal diseases if the leaves get wet. By watering from below, a self-watering container bypasses this issue, resulting in healthier plants. Number 5. It keeps the roots moisturized. Since the water is stored in the outer chamber of the container and reaches the roots as and when needed, the roots do not stunt growth and are healthy throughout the plant's life cycle. Number 6. Nutrients are preserved in the soil. Overwatering leads to the loss of precious soil nutrients. Since the self-watering containers are enclosed, the nutrients do not get washed away and are preserved in the soil when compared to the one in a traditional container. Before we discuss on how to make a self-watering planter, an additional advantage of using a self-watering planter is that plastic mulch covers the soil surface and thus it prevents or it discourages the growth of the weed. If you want to prevent or avoid the growth of weed that competes with the nutrients needed by your plant. So at this point, let us discuss how to make a self-watering planter. The materials that you need are the following. So you have to use a PET bottle, 1.5 or 2 liters will do. You can also use Wilkins or Absolute empty bottles, scissors, cutters, soil, and seedlings or even seed. For the first step, puncture holes approximately 1 inch apart to the top of the bottle. Number 2, cut your PET bottle in half. So be careful in using sharp objects like scissors and cutter. Number 3, add about 3 cups of soil. Number 4, cut 2 strips of wicking fabric. We call it mitya in Filipino. Insert it to the neck of the bottle, as you can see on the diagram. Next, number 5, sow seeds or plant seedling. Water lightly from the top, just once to settle them in. And number 6, the wicking fabric will draw water up to the plant, which conserves water. So by providing a consistent level of moisture directly to the roots of plants, self-watering containers can increase plant health and yield. So here are some of the examples of the plants that I've grown using self-watering planters. So I have here Oloroso lettuce or green red lettuce, basil, and pechay. I also have spinach, with a well-designed self-watering container, the plants will get just the amount of water they need to thrive. So self-watering containers are also the perfect solution if you travel and can't keep up with the watering needs of your plants. So that would be all for this topic about self-watering planters. Don't forget to subscribe.